Okay, good morning. Welcome. Welcome to the annual meeting of Plantation Golf Villas 2. Just as a way of introduction, I'm Dave Nelson. I'm a member of the board. I'm the secretary treasurer at the moment of the board. We have Rodney Brown with us, who's the president of the association. We have Marsha Lundy, who's a board member with us. Glad that she could join with us. And Josh Benson, who has been appointed as a board member to take up Miss Margaret McGowie's place. Unfortunately, it's sad news to announce that Miss McGowie has passed away recently. So we are going to miss her dearly, and we hope our thoughts and prayers go out to her family as at this time of loss. I think it was just a little over a month ago that she passed away, I believe. So we will miss her. But welcome to the annual meeting. Let me get to the PowerPoint here, make sure everyone can see. And then I can see you.
Yes, I felt it. Do I see great?
Here on my screen.
It's great. Meeting passcode 109607.
Okay, can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Yep, you're good.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Oh, and Miss Ellis is going to join us.
This meeting is being recorded.
Hey, I also have Shirley and Bill Matsey with me,
Okay, great. Wonderful. Welcome.
and my son Chug.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for joining us this morning. Glad to have you. Okay, so welcome and introductions. We do have a quorum this morning, so this is an official meeting by those who are in attendance and also by those who have sent in their proxies, and we appreciate your support in that. If there have been any issues with receiving notice of the meeting, we mail those out. Please contact me or Steve Davis, the property manager. As soon as I have a moment, I'll put my email address in the chat so you all have it, and Steve Davis's email in the chat, so you have that as well, so you can contact us so we can update, make sure we have your current address. Okay, so as a property management report, I'm going to just talk about a couple of things. If you could do us a favor and mute, unless you're trying to, so that way there's not any background interruptions, that would be wonderful. Appreciate the help with that. Okay, highlights. A lot of owners have been asking me about the latest on construction, especially those who live remotely. Construction, probably the best place to find, the best source to find information on the construction is the website. Let me see.
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, so on the website, that's Grand Palms Resort MB for Myrtle Beach.com. If you see up here, this banner here is updates on construction around the resort. That's by far the best place to find the latest information. What I try to do is try to keep that updated as much as we can. So if we click on that and look, of course, you'll see the entrance just off of the traffic circle by the resort. Also, of course, the latest announcement, especially those of you who do not live in the area, we have new construction just beyond the first traffic circle. So if you're heading into Platte from Business 17 towards the resort on your right-hand side, just past the first traffic circle, they are now clearing to make way for some construction there. We believe it's condos, not quite sure what it is yet, but they have cleared the area. And actually, this is an older picture here. A couple of weeks ago, it's now completely devoid of trees. So that's the latest construction. So just
the problem is with your computer, dear.
Just to show here behind the units, here's between behind building 212, 214. This is actually 214 building that we're looking at. You see our new neighbors there, and we'll be talking about what we're going to try to do to help screen us from our neighbors. And of course, this is the 212 side. Fairly close to our neighbors there. And of course, you can scroll down and look through other areas of the resort and how they look and so on and so forth. Another thing I wanted to point out is we try to update. So once again, here's the map. Here's the resort in blue. H here, the letter H is the new construction I was just referencing there. That's between the First Traffic Circle and the BR Horton development. And also we've been trying down here to update the number of homes and where the homes are being built directly behind the resort to show you. Actually, this is now out of date because we have, I believe, 3 or so foundations being poured and worked on right here behind this area of the resort. So anyway, I recommend the construction update to go out to the website. Any questions on the construction at all that I didn't cover?
Do you know if there's going to be any more ingress or egress constructed to accommodate those homes?
I do not.
All we've got is plat and then going through the Beverly development.
That is correct.
There really isn't anywhere to construct additional ingress or egress, so I would think the answer is probably there will not be any.
What fun.
Yes. Okay, another project that we've been working on resort-wide is the Palm Boot Landscaping Project. Those who are not familiar with palm trees, you know, that cross hatching or cross thatching that are up the bark or the
It's fine. It's fine.
the main trunk of the tree has needed some cleanup.
Yes.
Let's see, like the picture here. So here's one that still needs to be cleaned up. You know how this is the boot, what they call the boot. And so we've cleaned up the boot and we'll be cleaning this one up as well to where we eliminate the mess that's there that's caused by animals, storms, what have you. And we'll continue to, now that the major project of cleaning them up, it's going to be much easier to maintain them from here on out. So that's been done. You can see my list, especially those of you who have been here over the years. The list is much shorter this year than it has been in years past. That's due to us doing only the bare minimum and actually putting a hold on several projects due to the insurance, the astronomical increase in insurance, and we'll talk more about that as well later in the presentation. We are going to be working on some landscaping screening, especially behind 214, because that area there is there's just a few feet actually between their patios and the neighbors there. So we'll be working on that.
Guess what? There's like 4 inches. When they surveyed, that orange line was literally 4 inches off our patio.
Well, it's a little more than that, but there's about 36 inches is the shortest point between the two.
Thank goodness for leeways, setbacks.
Yes. So we're going to try to do some landscape, some screening, especially in those areas that are super close. We'll start there and work out. And of course, depending upon insurance, that'll dictate how much we can afford to do when we can do it. Okay, we've been pressure washing the buildings. We've been holding off. I'm sorry, was there a question?
Yeah, what about the upper units? What kind of screening is available for?
Well, we're talking about, we've been discussing a lot of different options. Probably the best option we can give is large tall palms. So we're going to be installing some large palms that when they crown out, there'll be some screening there for the upper condos. Okay, so pressure washing. Steve Davis is doing a phenomenal job with the contractor there. He started at the beginning of the resort just to make it easy. He's going down the odd side of the street. I believe we're on 215, 217, maybe 219 today we'll reach. And as soon as we're done with the odd side, we come back and start with the even side. And so the pressure washing is coming. It's taking a lot of work and a lot of effort because we've of course put that on hold due to the construction and all the dust and dirt and debris being created by that. Well, now it's time to really do a thorough cleaning of the buildings, and they look great. And that's coming our way in this association here shortly. Within the next month.
Dave, has all the buildings, like my building 216, has all the fascia, I don't mean the roof fascia. I'm talking about the block fascia. Has that all been sealed before we power wash?
The block fascia.
You mean the bricks?
The brick, right. We had a problem with the water running into and behind the brick fascia. Just wondering if that was all taken care of before we're power washing.
Well, we're going to be talking about that as well, but what we've been doing with Steve and working closely with the contractor is we're not, I guess pressure washing isn't really the best way to describe it. We're doing a soft wash with lots of chemical because we know we don't want to be our worst enemy and cause damage. So we are watching that close, Mr. Dupree, but we have not gotten to sealing the buildings yet.
Okay, thank you.
But great question. Okay, and then of course, we're going to be coming along after we pressure wash or after we wash the buildings and the decks. The next step is to come back and do a lot of repair work on the decks, and then we'll be staining the decks and patios will be the last pass, so to speak, of the projects that we have slated for this year.
Excuse me, is there any thoughts or plans to repair some of the cracks in the concrete in the walkways?
There have been. We just recently, Miss Lundy had made us aware of that. Steve is working with maintenance to look at what we can do there. Actually, some of the sidewalk there had been poured without joints there, without the expansion joints.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah,
that's true. So it may be a matter of we have to come back with a saw and actually create some joints and do some work that way. We're looking at the different options and talking to some concrete experts about that.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You bet. Now we have a number of new owners in our association this year. So I'm repeating a lot of information that's super important that you may have already heard, and please be patient with me and bear with me on a lot of the water issues that we've been talking about. It's already been mentioned this morning in the meeting. You know, water, of course, is our best friend and our worst enemy. And so we're here trying to do what we can to minimize the negative impacts of water. We're asking you as owners to especially contact Steve Davis. If you notice one of your windows, exterior windows, doors need to be replaced, he can recommend some contractors to help you replace those windows, because of course, especially if you're on an upper floor, if you have a window that leaks, it may not even leak into your condo, but your neighbor below you may be receiving the brunt of that. So please take a look at your decks, your doors, your windows, all exterior window facing windows, and so on and so forth. And actually, Steve may be coming back and recommending to you, if for whatever reason you're not here close to the area, he may be coming back and recommending a few of your windows just by looking from examining the exterior of the windows that need to be replaced.
Dave,
So,
can you
yes.
hear me?
Yes.
Can you see me? My picture is floating around, but I don't think they can see me. I'm on the call.
Hey, Steve.
Hello.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't introduce Steve Davis during the introductions. We have Steve Davis, our property manager for the association here, joining us as well. So, okay.
Steve is a great guy, by the way. I want to just throw in a pitch for him that he has been exemplary in the past year that he's been here. Thanks, Steve. You're always on it.
Thank you all.
Yes, he deserves, he works hard, and we really appreciate him. We're lucky to have him. So just like Mr. Dupree mentioned about the brick, you know, this is just an example where you see the mortar is crumbled. This is actually due to the lintel, but there's also other cracks and features, you know, where as the buildings age and settle and so on and so forth, the mortar comes out. We've been talking a while now about bringing in some expertise on sealing the brick. We found that this is a company out of Charleston. We've already experimented with one building in another association. As far as I know, the building, since we've waterproofed it, so what they do is they come in, and it's officially called point and tuck and seal. So what they do is they go around to each of these mortar joints and find where the mortar is missing or where it needs to be repaired, repair it, and then they'd put an outer seal on the entire brick exterior. The experiment was building 200. We just started with the oldest building at the resort because it needed the most work. In years past, it's had several water issues. As far as I know to date, since we've waterproofed the building, we've had no issues. So it's actually achieving results beyond what we expected. So we're excited about that. And that will be coming down the pipe as well. It'll be a while before we get to the buildings in this association, but it is coming. Now, this is not an inexpensive solution. It will cost us well over $20,000 a building to do this. Once again, we feel the investment is worth it, and it's paid out. It will have paid out already just in a few years in the one building that we've done it already, due to the water damage issues that we've prevented from having to fix. Okay, also we can talk about bent boots, that's the roof, and we're watching those closely as well. Okay, air conditioning condensation lines, especially with new owners. We have a lot of new owners, and unfortunately in our association, in the master documents of our association, AC condensation lines are named an owner's responsibility and not an HOA's responsibility, even though they're shared. So we're asking the owners once again to please make sure that your AC condensation lines are cleared out, and that they are more than likely your condensation line is shared with your neighbor. So if you're on an upper floor, more than likely your condensation line is shared with your neighbor below. And this is a chance to get to know your neighbor. I'd contact them, contact an AC tech company that can come and suck out the lines, clear them out for you. But just be careful and let your neighbors know that that's happening, because it could impact their AC condensation line as well. Now, if the AC tech, for example, runs into a situation where sucking out the line doesn't work, they normally blow it. That's the problem, because if you're unbeknownst to the neighbor, that your all the debris in the condensation line that's blown out of your line, it could clear your line but plug up theirs, or blow it actually into their AC closet. So you have to be very careful with that. Water heater replacements, we already talked about. We're really, once again, anything dealing with water, supply lines to your refrigerators, your toilets, your kitchen sinks, need to just check them, and check them regularly. We recommend at least annually. Okay, so condensation line photo. Did I show you this photo? So here, for example, are the condensation lines. Here's 3 of them, and of course they're plugged up, gummed up, and that would be holding back water. So we really need to have those addressed. Now, in this association, especially since the condensation lines for our building used to run out into the pond that was there, that's no longer, what we've had our landscaping team do is, between the patios, these condensation lines are now covered in an irrigation box. And we've created kind of like a French drain with some gravel in there. But so if you go back behind the patios, behind the buildings there, you'll see these big green irrigation valve boxes. Open up the lid, look down, and that's where the condensation lines now run into. But we ask you to check and keep those clean, because those can build up over time as well. Now, a secondary condensation line, there's actually 2 lines, condensation lines. The primary ones run out to the backs of the buildings. The secondary line, if the primary line is plugged, the secondary line starts leaking, but it leaks out into the front of the building to catch your attention. This is like a red flag saying, hey, something's wrong here with the AC lines, need to have them go get them checked before it causes major water damage. So anytime you see anything leaking out of the front of the building, please, if it's not yours, please make Steve aware so he can make that owner aware that there is a major problem with the condensation lines, and we need to get that addressed. All right. Now, we've talked about this before with those owners that have been with us a while, about the letter, the important letter of the owners. Since we have new owners, we're going to just address this again and send it out to the new owners especially. You should recognize this important letter. Now it has been updated. I did add the condensation lines like we just addressed on the bottom, so it's number 7. Everything we're talking about, bathroom fan, vents, dryer vents, those are all the owner's responsibility to clear the vents all the way to the exterior of the buildings. Fire extinguishers as well. Of course, those in the common areas like the foyers and outside the building, Steve Davis takes care of those. Addressing those every year, they're recertified. If you have, we encourage you, if you do not have extinguishers in your home, that you have extinguishers in your home and that they're recertified annually, and Pi Barker is the company to do that. Smoke detectors, they should be checked annually at least. When they should be interconnected, so if one sounds, they all sound off in the entire condo. Attic space, not living space. Especially new owners who've purchased a condo, the owners beforehand may have done this already and they're not aware of that. But if you have space that doesn't have any windows, for example, if you have a bedroom that doesn't have any windows, more than likely that's been a converted attic space, and we actually need to convert that back because that's against county code. Or if you need to step into the room, it's more than likely been converted attic space and it's not per code. Okay, insurance, we'll talk a little bit more about insurance and then the condensation line. So I'll be sending this letter out with the minutes. Any questions on the letter or anything I've discussed so far?
I just had something.
Hey, Sim.
Huh?
Ask why we're the only one between 212 and 214. Huge rocks.
Oh, that's part of the erosion control. Because it'll just dig it right
That
down.
looks terrible.
It's yeah, it's part of the erosion control, because if they weren't there, it would tear out the lawn and they just get big crevices, big ravines into there. So that keeps it from eroding out. Even,
Yes,
there's like fabric paper underneath it and rocks on top.
yes, that's officially called riprap. Yes.
Yeah, the wrap.
That's to erosion, to keep it from eroding the banks. And actually that's on their property, and Lennar did that. And so we're just going to try to screen it the best we can.
It's got
Okay,
fossils in it. It's pretty cool.
Yep. Well, well, it's not going to go away anytime soon. So let's just, enjoy.
Sometimes the visitors' kids love to try to pick up those rocks and throw them in there. So that's my task, is to get them out of there.
Keep the kids away. I understand.
Yeah. Oh, look, rocks. We'll throw it in the pond. No.
Okay, so let's talk about insurance. I know that we've talked about this before with pretty much everyone on the call, but once again, we're going to be sending the letter that you've already seen out to the owners about the difference between the master association policy that we've paid for and then your own contents or your own policy. It's called an HO6, your individual owner policy. Really, the rule of thumb is, within reason, is if you could possibly pick up your condo, turn it over and shake it, all the contents that move in your condo should be covered, is not covered by the master association policy. It's covered by your individual policy. So for example, if you have a really nice TV system in there that you want to ensure, that's part of your individual condominium policy and not the homeowner policy would not cover that. And in the case of a catastrophic loss. So this goes into more detail.
Even if it's mounted to the wall?
Sometimes, even if it's mounted to the wall, the cabinetry, the carpeting is really part of the individual condominium policy association. I mean, it's not the association, it's the individual policy that covers that.
You kind of have to read that paragraph called one complication. It is more complicated.
Yes, it's never as simple as it seems. Insurer's right policy in the standard form, which may not exactly coincide with our master deeds definition of common elements. Dwellings and limited common elements.
I was just being facetious. I know it doesn't cover the TV.
Okay, all right. Well, anyway, this letter hopefully will address that, especially with owners who may not understand or maybe new owners to condos. We're going to send this letter out as well. And of course, you know, this is once again, just a photo of a dryer vent line that has not been cleaned out that desperately needs it. That's a fire waiting to happen there. So just wanted to show that as well. Okay, rules and regulations. The legal counsel that represent the association asked us to update and clarify some of the rules and regulations. So we've gone about and done that and want to introduce that to you. So really there's, other than some punctuation that was changed, missing, the resort name was changed. There's really three main changes or updates to the rules and regulation. The first one is 3. I've got it highlighted here. There has been some question about what a golf cart is and what it isn't, and what's really allowed and what's not. Really, any type of low-speed vehicle that is registered with South Carolina to drive less than 35 miles an hour is considered a low speed or a golf cart. And those are not permitted in the association.
Can I ask why?
The why behind it is it's all about parking.
Excuse me?
It's all about parking.
What does it have to do with parking? If people abide by the parking, what difference does it make what type of vehicle they have?
Goes into a spot, it's even smaller than a car.
Well, that takes up a spot. And those, so once again, if we allow one golf cart, then the neighbors will want a golf cart and the other neighbors will want a golf cart. And soon we'll have a parking lot full of golf carts that we won't be able to have places for vehicles. We don't have anywhere to build anywhere there are spaces at a premium. There's nowhere on property that we can build extra lots to accommodate these vehicles that aren't the primary vehicles.
But if an owner abides by the 2 lots that they're,
No, there's no 2 lots. It's 1.5 is the county code. You don't even own what and we're all shared.
okay, is
So-
this enforced? Because every one of us know good and well, timeshare people come in here with 4 or 5 cars and fill up an entire lot.
I disagree with you there, but we can respectfully agree to disagree. If you let security know when that happens, we'll take care of it.
Done it. Nothing's ever happened.
Okay,
Dave, if I could also put in,
sure.
you'll get in later in the rules, but when there's a golf cart, there's also a need for charging the golf cart, and we've got electrical lines strung across sidewalks, which is a trip hazard and a lawsuit waiting to happen, which is another reason why golf carts just aren't compatible with our property.
Yeah, so this last sentence, I thank you for reminding me, Rodney, the last sentence is a new sentence. No electrical cords, charging cables, or similar apparatuses. Isn't it apparati? I don't know. This is legal. This is from the legal term, or permitted, due to tripping hazards.
So
Okay.
all of these rules have been modified or created unilaterally. I mean, you're claiming to have a quorum based on, well, you and Rodney being present.
Okay, Mr. Stafford, if you look at the master deed and bylaws, the rules and regulations are in place for a reason, but they also are in place because the board dictates it. And so the board has approved this. So we move forward with the rules and regulations. Now, if you have some suggestions and some changes and modifications, we look at that. But we have to be very, very careful because there's the law of unintended consequences. And
What about a vote?
well, you voted. When you vote the board in, you voted.
We don't care.
Okay, so the second 9, balconies, patios, and screen porches. So we've had some confusion by some of the newer owners, especially as to what really can be placed out on the patios and the decks. And so we've made some clarifications based on legal's recommendation, and here it is. No live or artificial greenery, flowers, or plants are allowed. No bird feeders as well. And once again, we're not against bird feeders. We're not against vegetation. It's just a matter of the decks, especially if you're on an upper floor deck, you need to water your plants. If someone's down enjoying their coffee in the morning below you, they get rained on unexpectedly. But plus also we have to maintain the decks, and water, of course, is an enemy to the integrity of the deck, and we have to replace it sooner. Also, we live in the South. Wet wood is just a glowing invitation for termites. So between that and the mess that it creates, that's where we are with that. The third change is statuary figurines, wreaths, decorations are not permitted in foyers, including on the condominium doors. That was the big clarification there. So if you want to hang a welcome sign or what have you, it'll look great inside the door, just not on the exterior in the foyer. Now, this, of course, doesn't include holidays where, just right above it says, 14 days prior to and after the holidays. It's fine. So those are the three major changes to the rules and regulations. Okay, any questions on that?
I wait.
Can I ask, who is our, when they went to Pound 78, who is our provider? We had a blackout, both internet and TV for a couple of days. When we went to complain to Spectrum, we don't have any account with you anymore. Who is our provider for internet and phone service?
Okay.
Not phone service, Pound 78.
Internet.
Okay, there are multiple divisions within Spectrum. When you pick up the phone and you dial Spectrum, you're normally dialing the residential division of Spectrum. We have a license. All of our agreements are with the commercial division of Spectrum, and that is a completely separate division. They actually honestly act like two separate companies. And so if you call up the residential division, they will not even see us noted in their system because we are not part of the residential system. We are part of the commercial system. So the best thing to do now, there are some blackouts that are resort wide that we've actually received some rebates back from. That was another question by owners that we've actually received some credits from on those times that they've had blackouts beyond their contractual time. But we have a new agreement that we just signed with them that froze the prices. They normally have a 5% increase every year. So in 2024, we'll be paying the 2023 price without the 5% increase. So there's a substantial savings there. We've also, and once again, as a commercial contract, it's all for one for all. So there are no individually configured systems for just one unit. So that's why I've gone in and negotiated the best I can to get as many channels as I can. And actually we've added more channels now that'll include Cinemax. So that's 7 more premium channels that come at the same price. We are upgrading our system, our Wi-Fi system, to a new state-of-the-art commercial system. It's a Cisco Meraki system. So what that means to us is that we'll have stronger signal, better signal strength. We're going to have more signal coming in on the back end as well to the resort in total. So we're excited about those changes. But also this directly impacts you because those APs in your condo, those little antennas, the wireless antennas that were installed, have to be changed out to new antennas for this new system. So sometime between now and the end of the year, we're going to be asking permission to come into your condo, and it should only just be minutes. It shouldn't take a whole lot of time to replace that box with the new box for the new system.
Yay.
Okay, so all that is fantastic news. I'm hoping you can appreciate that. This is, once again, negotiations galore to get here, but we've gotten here. And then also, in addition to this, is this new Spectrum app. They don't have it they don't have it enabled yet in our resort, so I haven't been able to play with it. So, well, in fact, I can show you their sell sheet on the new app.
Wayne, it's their managed Wi-Fi department. I'll bring you the number a little bit later.
Okay, well, I'm suggesting and encouraging you, if you have any issues, contact Steve Davis or myself, and we contact Spectrum because we have elevated access where you do not. Okay, so here's the streaming access. Here's the app. So once the system's enabled, we'll be able to download an app. Now, on a new smart TV, if it's a newer smart TV where you're allowed to download apps to the TV, they're suggesting that you should be able to download your app directly to your TV, and then you'll have an interactive guide right there on your TV. You'll be able to pause and resume entertainment. Say, for example, if you're on your TV watching a program, you want to pause it there. You're on your iPad traveling somewhere and you're a passenger in a vehicle, you can pull up your iPad and resume the program right where you left off. So hopefully it's going to be a very great benefit. If you do not have a smart TV, or at least a smart TV that allows you to install these applications on it, they claim that you are able to purchase a Roku and install it on the Roku and then be able to drive your TV via the Roku. Or you could stream cast from your device as well to your TV. So those are
What's the time frame on this? When's this supposed to happen?
Hopefully between now and the end of the year.
In the bedroom TV, I have it.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is I'm gonna ask Steve, as soon as we know this is available, we're gonna email everybody and contact everybody and saying, hey, new channels are available, the app's available. And also when the new channels are available, in order to access the new channels, you have to rescan the channels on your TVs.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so that will happen again. But hopefully between now and the end of the year, this is going to be in place. So any additional questions on the Spectrum agreement?
No, thank you. That was very well done.
Oh,
I would like to mention to anybody else that may be interested, T-Mobile does have available 5G internet for a pretty reasonable price here. I've been using it for the past few months. So that's something that some of you might want to consider to avoid the Spectrum hassle altogether.
okay, that's good to know. Thank you, Mr. Stafford, for sharing that with us. Okay, let's talk about budgets. Of course, we budgeted a substantial increase in insurance. It wasn't nearly enough. Our insurance went up well over 100+%. We had a meeting on that to try to explain that. We're continuing to look and search for options in ways and means. Just based on the news lately and what they're saying nationwide, here's just a couple of them, and these will be included in the minutes of where, U.S. sets a record for billion-dollar weather disasters in a year. Insurance is paying out, record amounts of claims. So unfortunately, just due to the news, I can't even be cautiously optimistic that our insurance is going to decrease anytime soon. So we're watching that closely. But anyway, we continue to work with our brokers. We're continuing to look at all options and try to save as much money as we can. But I'm going to turn the floor over to Josh Benson here to talk about the specifics on the year-to-date numbers and the budget.
I have a question though regarding the insurance before you switch over, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Actually, a couple questions. Okay, first of all, you had mentioned, I guess last year at the annual meeting, a couple of things. One, that we had borrowed at least a couple of times from the developer, but an amount has never been provided to us. What is that amount? And that was, as we were told, to pay the premium up front, and then we pay him back at 8% interest, or 8.5%, I guess.
Yep, Josh will be reviewing that and he'll give you the exact amounts.
Yeah, for the insurance specifically, we borrowed $51,500.
Is that in addition to the 19?
There prior to this year, the developer had lent 27,700 or 27,300, excuse me, to the HOA on an interest-free basis from improvements and other expenses in prior years that's accumulated. This year specifically, there was an interest-bearing notes agreed to with the developer, and that was for 51,500. And we just made a repayment of $30,000 last week to pay that off. And the reason again for the borrowing was the premium, and then the buy down itself was due back in the early portion of the year. But the associations only, even collecting the special or the insurance assessments, that was allocated over 3 quarters. So again, the 30,000 has been paid off, so there's still 21,500 left on that loan that we will look at repaying by the end of the year.
Now, the developer, Blaine, is also a board member, correct?
Correct.
That's correct.
And is he also an owner? Of course he is, through his dozens and dozens of LLCs, nonprofits, etc., which moves money around and which is basically considered layering and money laundering. But anyhow, so isn't there a conflict of interest there for a board member to?
Okay, Mr. Stafford,
from,
if you're going to throw things around like accusing board members of money laundering, we're going to remove you from the meeting immediately.
I mean, that's fine. I'm just wondering if you're willing to.
Mr. Stafford, I'm still talking. There are no prohibition from anybody in this country owning a unit here. Mr. Lillienquist has 2 companies that own some units here. He's an owner just like you are. He gets no special treatment. He pays the same dues that you do. He has to incur personal expenses in the units just like you do. So we welcome any sincere questions that you have, but will not tolerate any accusations.
My point is that it's a matter of law that a board member is not able to promote their own interest in lending, or say, for example, he owns a lawn maintenance company or a concrete flat work company. He can't use his own company to benefit from HOA jobs. Loaning money at a
Mr. Stafford, if the 5 or 6 owners here want us to go out to a bank and get a loan and give Mr. Lillienquist his money back, we'll do that immediately. We'll be happy to do that.
And I assure you, the banks are not going to do it for no interest.
And they're not going to. They're also not going to do the drop of a hat, which he was willing to do in order for us to secure the insurance that we needed when we needed it. So you're throwing out baseless accusations, and so.
Well, they're reasonable questions as an owner. I mean, we're paying substantial money, so I think we have a right to know this. Now, you said he's paying what we pay in monthly dues, yet not him, but the nonprofits. So is he paying back himself interest?
So
go ahead, Josh, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, the units that are owned there pay the same fees that you do. They pay the same special assessments. They pay the same. The agreement that is with this association is for the entirety of the association. That $51,000 that was borrowed. It was borrowed by this entire association and is paid back by the entire association. The individual owners are all paying the exact same amount, the special assessment, the regular quarterly amounts as well. So there isn't any special accommodations.
Who exactly was the lender? Was it Blaine personally, or was it one of his LLCs or nonprofits or other corporations?
It was the developer that is here. It was the developer that's here that lent the money.
Well, I understand that, but personally, or
no, not personally.
What corporation was it lent under?
Resort Development Company of South Carolina, LLC.
Okay, so the same that owns approximately what, 6 units in our.
No, that one doesn't own any of the units here.
Okay, John?
Is there a willingness of the board to, if I were to take on the expense personally, is there a willingness of the board to allow a forensic audit?
Oh dear, that's gonna cost us money we don't have. I
If
appreciate.
I'm willing to take on the cost of a forensic audit. I mean, most HOAs, have them
Whichever,
conduct.
since this doesn't, this is something you directly wanted to do, let's meet and discuss, and we'll see what we can do.
I will say this, Mr. Stafford, where you're about to go is that should we have an annual audit of the association? I would love to have an annual audit of the association. That audit would cost us between $1,000 and $2,000 a year. And I would recommend that we do it personally, and especially if it would bring some satisfaction to you.
I'll pay for it
And
the first year.
Well, actually, I believe the current price is about 4,000. So
Even still.
but we'll
For this-
we can discuss it. Okay, Josh, the floor is
I will go.
yours.
Sure. All right. All right, let me just make sure everyone can see. Everyone can see my screen, I'm hoping. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So today what we'd go over real quick, or go over our current year anticipated to the end of the year. A couple of the major items, and then we'll go over 2024 budget at the end. There's obviously a lot of numbers on here. So if there's questions, please ask them. I'll go as thoroughly over them as I can. So if there are questions on the way that this is formatted, you can let me know. So as we've talked about, the big issue this year was the insurance assessment. We assessed just for the insurance for this year, it was $898 for both the additional premium cost and then for the buy down that was needed. Because we financed it, there was a financing piece of it. So there was about $17 in financing that we tacked on for the insurance assessment itself, which brought the total assessment to $915, or divided over the 3 quarters, quarter 2, 3, and 4, it was $305. And so that was a special assessment there. Let me go over through a couple of other numbers before I circle back to the insurance. For capital expenditures, we did spend $3,600 earlier this year on curb and gutter on buildings 214 and 212. That was at the beginning part of the year before we had received all of the assessments, the insurance assessments. Most of the other categories that we have, expense line items, are within budget. Over a little bit, under a little bit, but we anticipate that the majority of them are in line with expectations. One major change this year, as well as you've noticed, is the landscape contract, a landscape maintenance contract that was changed out from Grand Palms Resort and was moved over to a new company called Brightview. Brightview is increasing their footprint in the Grand Strand area and came with an excellent proposal, which for this year brought down our contract, landscape maintenance contract itself, by about $2,500. They gave us a good break in the beginning of the year. For next year, it'll round back up to about what it was budgeted for 2023. But we feel like they've done an excellent job with their crews and their maintenance, and very proud of that contract that's gone forward. The insurance contract itself, like I'd mentioned, it came in at about 33%, between 32 and 33% of the entire budget is insurance. And as we had a meeting last time, we talked to my character about the different options and things that he was seeing. We've reached out to our bank, Truist Bank, and met with their carriers to see if there's anything else we could do, if we could do some self-insurance, or if there's other options out there. There was nothing presented that was a better alternative to this, but we've continued to try to look at different ways to increase or to decrease that amount. One of the things that we have done this year that did come out with our meetings with Truist is that we do have reserve funds in the account. At the end of this year, we were looking to have 53,000 after the contribution that we made this year. We were looking to have $53,000 in reserve funds. That's money that is contributed from the operating account into a separate bank account. We contributed $16,700 of our money to that. That is money that's for the major replacements, for the parking lots and for the roofs. The roofs can range anywhere from between $35,000 and $50,000 or more. And so in order to avoid special assessments in that situation, it's best practices to contribute funds to a reserve fund. But those reserve funds, as was talked about earlier this year, they do sit in an account. There wasn't sufficient at the beginning of the year to contribute enough to cover the entire insurance assessment. And then it was also discussed that if we did that to avoid a special assessment, we would be bare bones for the future in the event that a roof or parking lot needed to be replaced. However, what we have done is that insurance or that reserve fund money is contributed to a money market account in Truist. That money market account is 100% invested in T-bills or treasury bills. And we are 2 months into it so far, and the annual return on that is 5.25%. So there is some recouping of funds to the association. 100% of that 5.25% that is earned off of the reserve funds comes back to the HOA. And so that is mitigating to a large extent any of the interest expense that we will have. And going forward, that will be hopefully something that will continue based on the interest rate, the Fed rates, and things like that. Again, most of the other expenses here are in line. We anticipated at the beginning of the year to pay back $6,600 of the prior loan, the interest-free loan that company, resort developer company of South Carolina LLC had lent. That was originally part of the budget, and that is still anticipated to be repaid. We also anticipate by the end of the year, hopefully to be able to pay the entire interest-bearing loan back to the HOA. Or back to the developer. I apologize for that. All right. So at the end of the year, sorry, let me scroll back down. We are looking to be in good shape based on what we've been able to accomplish so far this year, despite the increase in insurance. I'm going to move towards the new budget for 2024. Because the insurance assessment is, we're anticipating the insurance to be the same for 2024. That insurance assessment was rolled into the regular assessment or maintenance fees. And there was a just under 3% increase in total assessments for 2024. So right now, the annual HOA fee would be for 2024 is $53.72. If you divide that by 4 for 4 quarters, it would be $13.43 per quarter, all inclusive. To pick up a few other things, We did go back to Grand Palms Resort, who has many of the contracts that operate within our association, and we asked them to sharpen their pencil to reduce their prices as best they could. And let me highlight a few of those. The trash and janitorial contract, which is to pick up the trash and empty all of the trash throughout the 4 buildings, that was reduced. Let me get the exact number on that one. That was reduced by about $1,000, $900 annually. The foyer contract that is also with Grand Palms Resort stayed the same for 2024. The contract for the landscape maintenance with Brightview, they did increase it a little bit, but that should maintain the same for 2023. There's just a slight increase for over 2023. The security contract that is with Grand Palms Resort was reduced also by just over $1,000. They sharpened their pencil on that. Management and accounting with Grand Palms Resort again stayed the same. There was no increase to the management and accounting contract. The insurance, the way that we budgeted insurance is to budget the exact same amount that we spent in 2023. We budgeted that same amount in 2024. We were told that there was supposed to be an increase, even a nominal one of 5%, 3%, 10%, somewhere in that range. Right now, we've held our budget at steady from actual for 2023. We did, however, we still do have a contingency budget down at the bottom that we've always budgeted in. It is 2% of top line. That if needed, that can be reallocated to insurance funds. If it comes in 3% higher or 5% higher, the contingency could be used to take up that extra increase in insurance. That way, we wouldn't have a special assessment. Other highlights, the cable TV, Dave did talk to us earlier about that. The cable TV, we had budgeted an increase in 2023. Spectrum was able to come back and give us the same price with the updated system for 2024. And so we budgeted the same as the actual cost of 2023. We budgeted the same for 2024. The telephone and internet stayed the same as well. That's also a contract with Grand Palms Resort. It's $38 a month per owner. So if you take $38, let me get my calculator back over here. $38 times 12 months, so $456 per year times 60 owners is where the $27,360 comes from. At the bottom, what we have said here is
I have a quick question about the internet, though, before you move on. Is that also a contract that is that we pay the resort for?
The internet, the cable is not. The cable is directly to the Spectrum account. The telephone and internet, they can't parse that out. And because there's all other associations out, they bill, that's a contract with the resort has with Spectrum, and then the resort contracts with all of the associations on property. And the rate that we've charged per unit is $38 per month.
So we're not allowed to see the actual invoices since it's directly.
Oh, that's, yeah, because that's a contract with the resort, correct. The service that the resort is providing is $38 a month because that's the contract that's there.
So owners, are we not allowed to see the books?
Mr. Dupree, we've been through this with you several times. you've been invited to come in and see the books. When you came in, we were ready to show them to you, and you asked all sorts of other questions and never got to the books. Then you asked that we produce a copy of every accounting record we have for the last 3 years, which would be enormously expensive. You elected not to cover that expense. We have provided you a smaller set of information.
Remind everybody how much you wanted to charge me for that. I think it was $900, correct?
Well, it was 5 cents a copy.
Plus the time it takes for our staff to do the research that you were asking for.
Okay, but the books are intended, these are the things that should be discussed in these annual meetings. Owners have a right to see what their almost $1,400 a month is
Mr.
going.
Stafford, we're going to cut your conversation off here. You were invited to come in and look at the books. All of the other owners are likewise invited to come in and look at the books. We're happy to do that. What we're not happy to do is to copy every scrap of paper for the last 3 years and send out to an owner for free. So yes, any owner who wishes to may come in and examine the books. There's no problem with that. So Josh, if you could move on, please.
Okay. Then for the reserve contribution for 2024, we moved up to 17,700. Again, this goes for roofs. This goes for the parking lots primarily. A few years ago, I think our reserve fund had gotten up to about $98,000, and then we had 2 roofs replaced. Dave, I forget which roofs they were, but they were each around $45,000 to $48,000. And so they substantially brought the reserve fund way down. But this is common practice. This is, to anticipate those larger expenses that an association would feel. Then the last item was the debt obligation to get if $10,700 is scheduled to be repaid to that original interest-free loan to Resort Develop Company of South Carolina, to pay that down further. What that does is bring the loan at the end of 2024, the insurance assessment loan of $51,500 would be paid off, and then the remaining balance of that $27,300 would be paid off down to $10,000 owed, just to get that off the books as soon as possible is the goal. So any other questions? Happy to go through different items here, and we can discuss those, but we'll be sending out those budgets just prior or just after this meeting as well. We can include this with the minutes.
Well, we need to make a motion to vote to approve the budget as presented by Josh Benson. Does anybody second that? Oh, Rodney, you're on mute. Okay, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Sounds like it's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Josh. Appreciate the help on that. Well, Rodney, let me turn the time over to you, give you the floor for the elections.
Okay, we have Josh Benson was appointed to fill the 5th seat on the board. Because he was appointed by the board, he's automatically up for election at the annual meeting. Further, Blaine Lillienquist has served his 3-year term, and his term expires. So there are 2 seats available on the board. The board places into nomination the names of Blaine Lillienquist and Josh Benson to continue, but the floor is now open for other nominations for the board. Hearing no further, I move that nominations be closed. If I have a motion.
Aye.
Dave and Mr. Dupree's both. So I guess that's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Because there are 2 seats available and 2 nominees, then we'll place the 2 names for vote by acclamation. All in favor of Blaine Lillienquist and Josh Benson filling the board seats, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Josh, welcome
Better,
aboard
you gotta
officially.
vote anyhow.
I'm
Thank
sorry,
you.
Mr. Stafford, didn't understand you.
Nobody's vote counts anyhow, other than yours, if you're claiming to have the majority, so I'm just, it's,
In any election, a majority rules. So we follow the practice and we take the vote. Thank you, Dave. Back to you.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your support. We appreciate that. Let me share my screen again. Let's see, let me move things around here so I can see you all as well. Screen 2. And does everybody see the election screen?
No.
No.
Yeah.
Not yet. Okay. Try again. How's that?
I think it's coming. Hang on. There it is.
There it is. Okay, great. Okay, well, this is the time where if we haven't been able to answer questions, that we'd like to try to attempt to do that. Open the floor for questions, additional questions on anything that we've discussed.
So, oh, go ahead, dear.
I just have a question. You, when we talked about the, those new houses behind 216 and 14, whatever, are they going to be putting fencing up? The white fencing or some kind of stockade fence? Do you know?
We don't know. I believe we inquired at one time, not sure if we got right to the source, and they said no. But hopefully maybe we can help them change their minds.
Well, do you think the individual owners would put their own up? And that'll be a mess because each one might have a different style.
Yes, it could very well be.
In most HOAs, and I don't know about theirs, so this is just a suggestion. They regulate fences and regulate the type of fences. I'd be very surprised if they all put up something different.
So they will have it. They have an HOA there. I'm not familiar
Yes.
with.
I'm sure it's Lennar Homes. I'm sure they have an HOA.
All right, now a long time ago, many years ago, you mentioned bamboo one time when everything was happening, when we didn't know what they were putting up, but you had mentioned a certain bamboo. Are you still thinking of that, or?
Well, the only thing with bamboo, especially at the time when I was discussing that, I didn't realize how close, especially that corner of 214 is to the property line, because we actually need a pretty substantial amount of space because that bamboo, unfortunately, doesn't have the strength to hold itself up. So it kind of spreads out. So we're looking at, for the second floors, we're looking for planting more palms. We're going to be planting palms to where you have a lot of crown, a lot of screening that way to get it the higher up screening on the first, on the patio levels. We're talking about ligustrum or something like that, some artificial, or I mean some not artificial, but natural fencing along there as well to try to get the best of both worlds for both.
It's kind of a balancing act because you don't want to be claustrophobic. If we planted the bamboo, it would be very, very claustrophobic back there. And so, but we don't want to look at somebody else's trash in their backyard either. So it's very much a balancing act.
All right. Well, I didn't know about the bamboo, so that's why you had mentioned it, so I didn't know too much about it. But we're on the second floor, so it'll be nice for us to put the trees up. So that would be nice, but I don't know how that would work for the downstairs.
Well, the
That's
downstairs,
gonna be a pretty tight fit on 214 and 212.
yeah, the downstairs, once again, we're trying to get some greenery where it will give you some privacy, but not completely block the view. So that's kind of a tough.
Well, I'm at 216 and we have more room, I think. So
Yes.
that's why I'm asking about this. So,
Yeah.
All right. That's it.
Well, and once again, just to give you an update, I'm working with a contractor now to go directly to Florida to bring an entire semi load to get a volume discount on the palms. I don't have the pricing exactly yet, the time frame yet, but I'm going to try to be moving on that here relatively quickly.
That'll be next door. We can't have palm trees here.
Okay, any other questions?
Yes. I would like to revisit the issue with the parking and vehicles. How are you able to restrict the type of vehicle if it's considered by the law to be a licensed or a vehicle that can be operated on public roads? I mean, how do you do that? What's next? Are you going to say only Fords or only
All I can
Chevys
tell you,
or
Mr.
something?
Stafford, all I can tell you, Mr. Stafford, is that came directly from our legal counsel. And I can only assume that they know the law.
But you have some owners like the developer who really is an owner, correct? In fact, the majority of the units are owned by him, and his people run around in golf carts. Why are the rest of us not allowed to?
Okay, Todd, the idea that someone performing maintenance on a unit is the same as an owner who's going to have a golf cart there 24 hours a day is ridiculous, and I don't think that needs to be answered. It's self-evident.
I don't think so. If this is a vehicle, especially a low-speed vehicle, is considered to be
Mr. Stafford, you can check with whoever legal counsel you'd like to represent you. But the legal counsel is the ones that have written those regulations and those clarifications, and also the definition of what should be able to be parked there and what not. And so I will defer to them. And if you would like to get in contact with our legal counsel, we can work that out as well.
Yeah, I think that would probably be the next step, because that is just unreasonable.
Well, it's been this way for years and years, so we have a precedent as well. But
it was unilaterally decided upon and enacted, and in fact is not even enforceable because it still hasn't been recorded.
It has been recorded. They have been recorded. They're in the doc.
Just recently?
They have been recorded here last week. They were recorded. So it is official. And once again, Mr. Stafford, we've belabored this. We've answered your question, even though you don't like our answer. That's the answer. Any other questions?
Yes, I really didn't get an answer regarding the forensic audit if I were to pay for it.
Yeah, they said you could.
We can talk about that offline since you're willing to pay for it, but we need to find, we'll work on, as an association, finding someone who can do an audit for us.
Well, I'd be glad to find an independent. I'm just
we will
want to be of record if you're willing to submit to that.
We can discuss it.
No.
All right. Well, any other questions or thoughts? Any other questions before we close? Do I have a nomination to close the meeting?
I nominate we close the meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. And Ms. Dupree, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Hey, thank you so much for attending. We sure appreciate it.
Hey, could I ask if you'll send a copy of this video to me?
That a couple from Wisconsin that use their car over there.
Yes, we can work on that. Right. Well, thank you, everyone. Once again, appreciate you all attending and being over here. Take care.
See you next year.
Bye-bye. Thank you.